Hey, everybody, welcome back. Number 11. We're back at it. Um, so, I have a good quote because I kind of wanted to, or we kind of wanted to continue a little bit about our conversation about our classroom
Right.
and how we set things up for our students. So, I found a quote, an anonymous quote. It says, "No teacher can expect to be all things to all students, but when you give it your all, you make a difference you can't always see in the surface of their lives." And I think that's one of the things that we probably we worked on and we learned as
Yeah.
we went along. And we talk about truths. And sometimes when you first start out on something, you're kind of basing your decisions and your thinking and your planning on what you believe to be the truth. But sometimes circumstances help you see things differently, and we kind of learned as we went along. And I think
Well,
that that's kind of what we did. And
think about when we first got started. Where did we start out? You said we were at the park, right?
Mhm.
We were at the park, and we went we went from Santa Ana,
Mhm.
and our concept was to be able to do what? Go wherever the students were. So
Did we start off with that idea, or I mean, we got the park,
we got the
we got
park,
that little cabin.
and then we started being uh, uh, successful.
Mhm.
And then we went to the Garden Grove Library.
Right,
Okay, then we went to because we were getting referrals. We were getting referrals.
right, because the word got out, and
Yeah,
then somebody wanted us to see if we could take this student, but it was in a different geographical
yeah.
area.
So we said, we'll find a spot for them. And we went to the
Yeah.
Garden Grove Library, the Stanton Boys and Girls Club, and we went to where did we go? Where did we go in Westminster?
Well, we went to the Westminster
We
Library
went
and
to the
got
West.
their
Yeah,
conference room, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
their room, their meeting room.
And I think that the idea was that we were meeting the students where the students were at.
We were on the move,
We were on the move.
including going to their homes. Some of them couldn't even
Yeah,
make it out of their home
right,
area, so we would go and meet them at their home. I think of many times where we would sit at their dining room table
right,
and discuss the work with them.
right,
And that's when I began to see the world differently. I saw their lives where they lived,
right.
and it helped me more tailor my approach, if you will, and my relationship with those students.
We'll say that throughout the years, even in the very beginning, I think we were dealing with at least 75% of our students were Hispanic
Oh yeah, it's a
throughout
given.
through the whole process that we were going through.
Hmm.
But we did that. And that we did it from what was it 90? I'd say 91 to 95 or 90 95. And that's when we got the first um, bump in the road between me and you. And that's when they said, well, instead of embracing what we were doing, it was always the fact that how could you do that? You can't be doing those kind of things. And then that's when they said they were going to split us up. You remember?
Yeah.
Okay, they were going to split us up. And I said, well, I'll go out and let Larry, because I figured you could. No, and he said, you stay, and Larry's going.
Mhm.
You remember I said that? You even volunteered to do. And they said, no, you going. I don't know where you went from there. Where did you go from
Well, I
there?
went back to YGC or Rio Contiguo for a short while, and
Uh
then I
huh.
ended up over to a day school in Orange called LaSalle,
Okay.
and then I ended up going to Los
Well,
Pinos,
speeches from
as a
there.
teacher. But
And I went. Then what I realized, I said, oh my gosh. They said we're going to audit the program, and I said, wow, okay. And then that's when I figured out, well, shit, they're coming after my butt.
Mhm.
They're coming after my butt because they don't believe that, that we. But when I told you in the very beginning, I said we keep every piece of paper that we deal with each one of the students, And we had how many boxes? How many boxes of students did we have?
Oh, we had at least maybe a dozen boxes of student contracts along with the school work. As
Yeah,
you told me, don't throw anything away. I kept everything.
we kept everything.
And then when they asked for the audit, here we
They,
go. I'll give you what we have, and then we'll go from there.
and they went through the audit, and they found nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And then I went from there over to Yale. Okay, and the place was chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and then we kind of got it into into work. Then they closed that down, and then I went over to I started a program over there on what's that? It was that street?
Fairview?
Not Fairview. It's Edinger.
Edinger,
Anyway, that's
right,
what I started. I started Edinger, and that school got successful.
Mm-hmm.
We had the three rooms, and I think who was there? They had the one guy that we had a guy in this room right here, and he treated the kids really poorly. I mean, he would put his feet up on the table and tell them you guys are from Mexico, you ain't with the dam and all that kind of stuff. And I was in the middle classroom, and Susan was on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so we did all right. And I think they closed. They moved me out of there, and they moved me up to 17th Street at the church.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I had my own program up at the church. And
was that at Summit? Was that the upstairs one? Summit?
Yeah, up the, and they had, and I had my kids came upstairs.
Yeah, I remember that.
Came different times, and we were successful, and they didn't like that, so they changed me again to over to single gender, and they gave us a little room. And I still and I had 100 and what shit, man. I must say I had 85. I don't know. We had the room all in there, and so we did that. And then we moved up to the front building up on up the street, and we were successful doing that. And then they gave us, remember, the warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the warehouse, we did that, and we had how many? Then you came back to me at the warehouse.
Right. Oh, you mean in Fountain Valley?
Yeah, Fountain Valley, and we had 120 some kids.
Oh yeah, that thing
was. We had kids coming and going. And Team Mothers program. We had all kids going to college, kids going to ROP, the whole 9 yards. And then they said, "Well, we're gonna break you down again, and they will send us up to 17th Street." Remember? Yeah. Okay.
Well, when we and I know we've several times have talked about the sort of chronology of it, the sequence of programs and changes and moves. But what comes to my mind is that when you look at the leadership, the administrative leadership, innovation is threatening to people who are in leadership. They're fearful of it sometimes, I think. I mean, there's some fearless leaders that embrace it, but the status quo is what, when that gets shaken, leaders kind of want to abandon it. They want to go back to what we want to call a safe zone or a safe way of doing business. And I think a lot of times we had ideas and we wanted to innovate.
We did it. You know, you think you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then they would come around and say, "You did it, but you're not supposed to be able to do it."
Yeah.
But
or it wasn't my idea. Maybe it was because they were threatened by the fact that it wasn't their idea. They lost control, if they will. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. Did we grandstand?
I was thinking about that. We presented that one time in Palm Springs when we first were getting started, and I know there were some people that regular goers, administrators were
Mhm.
regular, and they was like, they looked at us like, "What are you doing here? You know what? Who are you to be here speaking to these other educators from out of the area?" You
Mhm.
know, and I felt like we had some good ideas. We were having some success. I kind of my feeling was, well, let's share that, and
Yeah.
maybe other people could. You know, I didn't want to hold on to it. I mean, I felt that if we could be doing it, others could be doing it, and in the bottom line, the students would benefit. They would benefit from this sort of innovative way of approaching alternative education for students that weren't making it anywhere else. They failed, or they just weren't accepted into the traditional model. So we tried to reinvent it or recreate it. And I think some administrators, leaders, if you will,
In our
were
department.
threatened by that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're threatened by that. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Well, you got to remember, Orange County is conservative.
Okay.
Okay, and the one thing, this is really think about this. I became president of a statewide organization, and I was the only member in that organization from Orange County.
Right. You told me that. Yeah.
Okay, okay, and all I have a bachelor's, I have a degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. I got lifetime credentials, elementary, secondary, uh, community college teaching credential, counseling credential, alternative ed credential. Those are my credentials.
Mhm.
Okay, and that was the basis of what I was involved in. I have over 100 graduate units.
Right.
Think about that. I
Mhm.
have over 100 graduate units, and I was trying to apply my craft from a way of being an alternative educator.
Was that a sense of pride that you were an
Well,
alternative educator?
well,
As
yes,
opposed to the regular
okay.
ed.
Well, I was. We started out juvenile court schools,
Right.
and the county changed it from juvenile court schools to what? Alternative and correctional ed.
Mhm.
That sounds more palatable, okay,
Mhm.
than juvenile court schools. Every other county has a section called juvenile court schools.
And is that just the institutions
No,
and the
no, juvenile school.
incarcerated? Not
That's
necessarily.
the whole bally wax.
Okay.
And underneath the juvenile court schools is their alternative ed.
Hmm.
See, ours is the other way around. Ours is alternative ed, and no mention of juvenile court schools. They eliminated that. Okay.
Access. What was the acronym Access? Alternative
All,
correctional
all, all alternative correctional education, whatever.
students and services.
Yeah, student services, something
Student
like that. Yeah,
services.
yeah.
Well, it's all in the name, I guess. But
Well, it sounds, it sounds, but the meat and potatoes of it is we were at the time we were dealing with juveniles who were on probation most of the time. Okay, then we started getting students that were on probation going to the regular high school. Then we started getting students that were sent from the regular high school that couldn't make it in continuation school,
right.
so they sent them to alternative. We got a site called Alternative Ed,
Hmm.
and then you have a situation where a lot of people didn't like to be on the alternative ed spectrum.
You're talking about the educators, the
Educated
teachers.
teachers, yeah,
Okay.
they wanted to be on the, they wanted to be regular ed. They
It's
wanted,
almost like they wanted to force the system to fit the model of the traditional educational system, as opposed to uh, creating an environment in their classroom to accommodate the alternative
right,
student.
right, right, right,
It
right.
was the opposite approach.
And there's a reason why these kids are not in the mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a bad thing. But some of the things that we talked about before is that a lot of kids had family responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and education was important to them, but they had other things that were or family oriented that they had to take care of.
Well, right. Yeah, that was the holistic approach or the holistic
Mm-hmm.
outlook
Right.
on a student and their own individual situation.
Think about this: we were the only two teachers that in alternative ed that did parent conferences.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I mean, and we would get we would get about, I'd say 70%, I'd say 80% of the kids students were there,
Mm-hmm.
and we did the RSVP. Everybody took home the situation, and their parents picked the time that they needed to be there. We went all day.
Right.
On Friday or Saturday, or we did the weekend. I think it was the weekend we did it
Mm-hmm.
all day Saturday. We go to the site
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate the parents, and we had to progress reports ready and everything like that. But I think that program wise, I think we tried to do the very best we could, and it's just like with the books that we had. Okay, we had I made sure that we had three levels of books
Right.
for the low reader,
Mm-hmm.
the medium reader, and the college prep kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to meet the kid where the kid was at.
Right.
Okay, I mean, when kids would say, "Well, how come they're doing that book and I'm not doing that book?" I said, "All these books, the information
Is the same.
is the same, and it's and I never one of the things I never did, and I think you never did. We never differentiate and made it the difference between a low reader, a medium reader, a high reader. We always gave them an opportunity to do all the same assignments at the same time.
Right.
And I think that was one reason why my weekend every Monday was very, very important because they all had to write.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and had to write about something that each one of them was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was not my topic.
Mm-hmm.
It was just real simple. My weekend. What did you do on your weekend?
Right.
Okay.
And as you've said in the past, that was the ability to get them to write about their personal experiences,
Right.
but also teach them the skill of writing and preparing them for ultimately the
You critically start critically thinking.
yes.
Okay, I mean, what were some of the little things that you used to do with the guys that you were dealing with?
Well, like I said, we would try to find high interest reading, something pertinent to their lives
Mm-hmm.
and relatable to them, and again make it a personal uh, educational journey for them.
I know.
Individualized. They talk about
Yeah.
individualized instructional programming.
Right. Right.
You know.
Each when you think about it, each kid in our classroom was on an individual program,
Right.
individualized program.
Right.
It's just that they were seat time, and they came in and they did homework, they did assignments that was relevant, and they went to ROP. We were strong on ROP, and
We'll talk about ROP because a lot of people might not know what ROP
well,
really is. What was your
well,
philosophy or reasoning
but
for
when
offering
I
that?
first started, well, I wanted them to when we first started at the park. But I wanted to be able to academic and social and vocational. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and employment. And so to back them up to employment and social, we try to get them jobs if we could, but also job training through ROP.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be able to earn elective credits through RP.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were if we got them if they got in the right program, they would be able to become employed.
Right.
Okay, so what it was we were able to do, we were able to do the academic and still refer to the employability and the training by ROP.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had something. They had a what you call it a base place to be,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then been in going out on the other environments, but we were always behind them to back them up.
And you talk about your teen parenting program. A lot of these young people had children, and they needed to have an income, and their
Right,
job
right,
became
right, right,
very
right,
paramount
right,
to their
right, right.
survival. And instead of making that a hindrance in their education, we made it a
We figured out how to accommodate that situation.
right. And support it.
Yeah, and support it academically.
Hmm.
You know, it's just like we said many times that guys were meeting guys at 6:30 in the morning at McDonald's or wherever they before they went to work, or the guys were FedExing their homework
Hmm.
in and stuff like that. We were accommodating
Right.
the individual. Okay.
Which is what an individual education program is all about.
Well,
We
yeah,
talked about
yeah,
accommodations, but
yeah,
um, that's and that's how you approach it, and that's how
right,
you would look at it, and then other students would see those students that were working or going to ROP and say, I want a piece of that. I want to be a part of that.
right, right.
And that helped build, the support for that and to have other students get involved in it. And it really was a successful piece of what we were
One of the
doing.
things that made it so successful in terms of the outside activities is because I made sure that I would walk the kids through, and I made sure that I let the people at ROP know that if they're having any problems with the student, call me.
Right. We made a
Yeah.
point of making ourselves or introducing ourselves to,
Hmm.
to the employers and saying, if you have a problem or you need some support
Yeah.
with this employee that's one of our students, we're
Or
there to help
ROP not going to
or
class.
yeah, exactly. And I
Okay.
remember many conversations with instructors in the regional occupation program, the ROP, that we would have these conversations with them, and we developed relationships with those teachers, so
Right.
they would kind of look out for our students
Yeah.
and
So
help them a
because
little
of
bit.
it say, well, I have Johnny didn't come to school this week. Was there something wrong? I said,
Right.
well, let me check, make
Yeah.
sure. Let me check
Right.
and make sure.
Right.
Okay, because ROP was based on the ADA. They need those guys to be in class.
Right.
Okay,
And performing and behaving themselves, doing what they're
and to
supposed to
get
do.
paid, so they can get paid.
Right.
Everything is about money.
Right.
Everything was about
We
money.
talked about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we didn't do what we did because of money. We did what we did because we cared about students.
That was our first and foremost. I really
Yeah.
felt like that's what
Okay.
we put first.
Okay. It's,
And
it's just like it's just like you coach your boy in with basketball when he was coming up and things like that.
mhm.
Okay, you paid attention to what he was doing and involved everybody when I was doing little league and junior American football. Okay, I'm coaching from the point where I want to bring this guy from back here all the way up to the front.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
I want everybody to be involved, and this is what we did in our classroom. Everybody, once they saw what people were doing, and students were doing, they said, "Well, hey, can I do that too?"
Yeah.
Okay, I said, "Well, these are the things that you must be able to do that. You have to come to school. One, you have to be productive in school, and then when we send you out there, you have to be going to where we send you and doing what we said you're going to be doing."
Mhm.
Okay, now if there's going to be a difficulty in doing that, then you can't do that. Okay,
Yeah, you can't be a part of that.
no, you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. And I think that's what we.
But we were supportive of the ones that was out there doing what they were doing, and then that was it. Because I think the last time we were together was what was it, 17th Street,
Yeah.
and that was 2000, and we split up in 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to Harbor Learning Center and you went to Juvenile Hall,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the last time we worked together.
Right. Right.
Okay, yeah. And after all them years,
So, like that quote was saying when I started, is you make a difference you can't always see on the surface of their lives. So it was a deeper meaning to them. Maybe at the time they just felt like they were just going through the motions of showing up and doing it. But I think later on, because many of those students now are in their 30s and
Well,
40s,
Carla's 45 years old.
right? That's one of our
Okay.
first students.
Yeah, well, she was in our first graduating class,
Hmm.
and she works for the department. She worked in the department over 20 years,
Right.
and I still get calls from students within. And you got to think about this, Larry. 2000 to 2015, you were part of 775 students graduating with high school diplomas
Hmm.
at the era of the Casey.
At the era, yeah, and that's important to emphasize.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
era of the Casey, which is the
Okay.
California high school exit exam, which
Yeah.
was
It was a
absolutely
monster.
necessary. It was a monster,
It was a
especially
monster.
for our students. But that was what was always behind our, at least our academic aspect of it,
Yeah.
was preparing them to pass that so
Casey.
that they could achieve that diploma and get that diploma.
Right. They had to pass the Casey diploma,
Right.
and they did. They did the. I would set them up for their the right grade, the right classes, and everything.
Mhm,
And that's my counseling experience.
mhm.
And I
Right.
think that was the thing that made our program strong, is because I was a school counselor, de facto, and I understood how important it was to be able to work from that part of the education continuum, as well as being a teacher.
I think so many teachers, at least from my experience or what I observed, was that so many teachers, limited their approach to their students by just their classroom and just their academic area, if they will. I mean, in our system, you taught all subjects. You weren't just a history teacher.
We taught everything.
Right.
We taught everything. Every we taught. We were from I think 6th grade through 12th grade.
Right.
Okay, and we even had kids going to community college.
Right.
Okay, and I think the thing that was important in us teaching everything, we got to be able to work with the kid and all the weaknesses and the strengths of his program. But the other teachers only taught their subject matter: English, math, history, and science.
And they isolated it to just their classroom.
Right.
They didn't go out beyond
No.
where the real world exists. They didn't cross that line.
They didn't do any RLP. They didn't do any. They didn't expose their kids to anything because they didn't see the value of that. That's I'm teaching math. I'm teaching English, and where we were getting, and then this was what's so not funny, but not funny, haha, but funny in terms of commitment. They had 20 kids in a classroom, and they get maybe 8 to 10 kids to class.
Mm-hmm.
We had over 60, 70 kids coming between us, and we were hustling. Okay, we were hustling.
We were like continually trying to, bring them in and be a part of our program. And
this is what used to be funny. You remember when we used to do when I was at Harvard Learning Center, anywhere that where somebody else was at, and the teachers they had 20 kids and they couldn't complete the report cards, and I used to look at them and I said, well, why can't you do a report card? I'm doing 45, 50 report cards and getting them done, but they didn't have a process. They didn't do stuff every day. They didn't say, well, we're doing this math, we're doing this and this, and they were spending all their time on discipline. Okay, okay, but if the number one thing you got to do is you got to control the classroom. And I think how much time did we spend on discipline?
Well, I don't think we really had to do much because, like I said, we could always steer the student back into their program and remind them that this is something that they have kind of tailored for themselves, if they will, with our guidance, and it benefited them. They saw the benefit of it. It wasn't a tug of war or a conflict between us as the teachers and them as the students. We talked about teams. We talked about sports and the importance of team.
If somebody was talking too much, we'd say, "Move your seat."
Yeah,
Go on a movie seat.
Yeah, and they would understand why we were telling them
Yeah.
that. They may have tried to resist it. They may have tried to argue about it, but I think they knew that that's what we were attempting to do, was to keep them on task.
And the
And
one thing that we always did, and remember, the last half hour of the classroom is talking time.
Yeah.
And put away your books and everything like that. Now you talk.
you give that chance to socialize a little bit.
Yeah. You got to be able to, no matter what it is, you got to be able to read the room.
Read the room. I like that. Yeah.
Okay, you got to be able to read the room.
And I think a lot of teachers didn't choose to do that. It was,
Well,
again, like you said, my way or the highway. You know, and it didn't work for those students sometimes.
no, because it become from situations where everybody is telling them this is the way you get, this is the way it's got to be done. You can't have any leeway over here. You can't have any leeway here. It has to be done this way. And they're saying, well, this way doesn't work.
Right.
That's what they're saying. This way doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then nobody listens to them. Okay.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that's what they were used to. Nobody would listen to them. Nobody could hear what they had to say.
No, because you're a knucklehead, and you're here to do this, this, and this, and I don't. A lot of times they would say, I don't care to hear what you have to say.
So a bigger truth is that I guess we saw the humanity in them that maybe some educators didn't see, that these are human beings with the same kinds of needs and desires and ways to be, that is similar, and we just have to help them find that and help us best relate to that,
Yeah.
and best prepare them for that position in life.
Yeah, and that's that's important about how you doing. That was important about setting an environment where kids were referring kids to us. Uh, Former students were being referred to us. I mean, we didn't have to worry about referrals,
No.
okay? Because the people that were doing the referrals were people that had already been in our program and said, hey, this is where I want my cousin to go. This is where I want my nephew to go. Okay.
I always felt like too there were students that sometimes got lost
Mm-hmm.
and drifted off, but they found their way back. And I always felt like, we always left the light on.
Always.
And they knew they could come back,
Always.
and we would try to pick up where we left off, and let them regroup and begin to find their way again. Now
Right.
some didn't come back, and that's unfortunate.
Because sometimes you had students that were sometimes a little bit too smart for themselves.
Yeah,
Too
right.
smart for themselves,
Right.
and they wanted to create the narrative in which we didn't allow that to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it was just the fact that we weren't trying to be uh, uh, what's the word I want to use, um, big brother. We weren't trying to be big brother, but we just say, hey, this is an environment that benefits you, and you have to buy into the environment.
When you talk about Big Brother, I just remember so many times after school we would jump in your car and we would drive around, and we would find students walking the streets
Yeah.
who were in our class that
Yeah.
hadn't made it that day.
Yeah.
And I was just amazed at how you could go, oh, over there, and we'd turn around, make a U-turn. Hey, roll the window down, bring them over to the car. Hey, we missed you today, man. Mate, come on back. Get back there, get back on task. And most of them did. They found their way back, and so I felt like that was something.
It was important, and the reason why I did that is that you had to be able to protect the kid after he left the school. Okay?
Right.
And you had to be able to protect the kid, and a lot of kids would be got shot or whatever was going on. But I used to like to just drive around the streets and just make sure that they were going in the direction that they said they were going to go, and they wouldn't be in get what's the word I want to use, preyed upon by somebody
Right,
else.
preyed upon,
Because
yeah.
a lot of our kids couldn't go straight down the street, and it was tough.
Yeah, the streets are tough.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Steele, we're wrapping up number 11 here. I think we had a good conversation.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
about our teaching and our programming,
Yeah.
and hopefully some truths came out in our discussion. And so until next time,
Okay.
it was again once again a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Okay.
I'll bet. Those of you that are out there listening, subscribe to our page so that you can get the notifications of when we're going to record again.